Hello, everyone. I'm here to make a recording for you about the part that we didn't cover. So, because we are in a new era of education, right? We want less lecture and more group discussion. It means that if I record the lecture for you, so we're gonna have more time in class for you guys to have a group discussion. But I promise that it won't be too long, maybe just 20 or 30 minutes. Okay, let's see. So let's get started. Last time we talked about the individual demand and market demand, right? So the market demand is simply the horizontal summation of all individual consumers in the market. Next one is about determinants of demand. So far, as you can see that, so far, we've only looked at one factor, which is the price, okay? Like here, the price. That's the direct factors, okay? That's the direct factor. It moves you along the demand curve. Everything else on this list is indirect factors. This shifts the whole curve. Let's take a look at each of them. The first one, price of related goods or services. Think about it. If the goods they are substitutes or complement goods, okay, for example, for substitutes like coffee and tea, right? So if coffee prices rise, tea as a substitute demand may rise too. But if bread and butter are complements and bread gets pricier, butter demand may fall. Okay, let me write it down. So for substitutes, we have coffee and tea. But for complements, think about bread and butter. Next one, consumers' income. Okay, so we can distinguish by normal goods or inferior goods. As a normal good, you buy more as income rises, but for inferior goods like instant noodles, you actually buy less as you get richer. Next one, tastes and preferences of consumers, right? Like the trends, fashion, health awareness, those kind of thing. Next one, consumers expectation of future events. Okay, if you expect prices to rise next month, what will you do? You will buy more right now. Okay, and then number of consumers in the market. For example, more tourists in Chiang Mai during high season, more demand for everything, hotel, food, transportation, right? The next one, season, summer, rainy season, or winter. Suppose umbrellas in raining season, right? And air conditioning in hot season. And then we have conditions of income distribution in the economy. This means that how income is spread across society changes what gets demanded overall. The key distinguish to remember is that if price change, so this is about movement along the curve, along the demand curve, any one of these other factors change, the whole curve shifts. Here we have demand function. This is just a way to write everything we just discussed as one equation. Okay, so we have direct factors, price, indirect factors, right? And then relationship between purchasing quantity and factors that determine demand, all of the above, able to express relationships algebraically. This is called the demand function, and we can write it as follows. Quantity demanded for good X depends on the price of X itself, the price of related goods, Y, and consumers' income, Y, okay, capital Y is consumers' income level, and then all other factors we listed, okay, like the tests, expectations, seasons, and so on. So here is the demand function. Nothing new here, right? It's just packaging the whole determinants listed into one algebraic expression. Don't worry about solving it like an equation yet. Just understand it as a compact way of saying that quantity demanded is driven by many factors, right? And price is only one of them. And of all those factors, right? Among the factors that determine demand, the price of good X, which is PX, is the factor that has the greatest influence on the quantity demanded for goods X, right? That's why economists usually focus on it first, okay? Normally we think price as the priority, okay? So we simplify, okay? We're assuming that other factors that determine demand are constant. This is a ceteris paribus assumption that we mentioned before, or have no influence on the quantity demanded, okay? Here is a reminder, economics assumption number 2 in chapter 1. We can write the demand function as follows. So that gives us quantity of X is determined by the price of X itself, okay? This is the simplified demand function we actually work with, okay? Quantity demanded is a function of price alone, holding everything else fixed. This is exactly what lets us draw a clean, simple demand curve. Remember, we have our demand curve look like this, right? On the x-axis, we have the quantity demanded. On the y-axis, we have the price of the goods, right? And normally for the demand curve, it is downward sloping. So we have, let me use a capital D to represent the demand curve. So now let's give this a concrete algebraic form. The simplest version is a straight line, okay? Like quantity of x equal a minus b times px, okay? Let's break out each symbol. Okay, so I need to, let me write it down here. I need a table. Okay, so what we have qx. What is qs? Qx, the quantity demanded of good x. In plain English, we can say that how many cups you buy. The next one we have A. What is A? It's a constant. Even you're from the non-major of economics, but I'm very sure that you have learned like the linear algebra in your high school, right? I hope so. So A here is the constant, or we can call it the intercept. And then we have B. B is the slope coefficient. This slope coefficient means how sensitive you are to price changes, right? Because it's here. This is the slope. And then we have Px. What is Px? Price of good X. Okay, so actually this is the actual price tag that you see on the market. Here, one question. Why B is negative, okay? Why? Any ideas? So the minus sign is the law of demand in math form. It means if price goes up, quantity goes down, right? Opposite relationship. Okay, so the negative sign, let me write it here. Actually, it's the law of demand. Okay, let's take a look at the question here. Quick question for you. Who has a straight line demand curve? Who? So actually, nobody's real world demand is perfectly straight. This is a simplification, a model, because economists use straight lines because they are easy to work with, not because real life is actually linear. Keep that in mind as we move forward, okay? So let me emphasize this demand equation. This equation just says the higher price, the less you buy, okay? In math form. This is the distinction students mixed up most. So please pay attention here. Here we have change in quantity demanded, okay? This happens only because price changes, okay? Everything else stays the same. On a graph, this is a movement along the same curve. Like the graph that I draw here. Okay, let me copy it. and paste here. Okay, look at here. If the price of that good changed, okay, so that means the change, the quantity demanded change, gonna be the movement, okay, gonna be the movement along the same curve, okay. And next one, we have change in demand. This is shift in the entire demand curve, left or right. Okay, let's see. Is the change in purchasing quantity due to the change of one of many indirect factors, while the price of the product remains the same? Okay, so here is indirect factors. This happens, okay? This happens when something other than price changes, okay? Like income, tastes, season, expectations, right? Okay, let me write it here. Income, tastes, season, or expectations. So a quick way to remember it. If it's price, you move along the curve. If it's anything else, the whole curve moves, okay, shift to the right or left. Okay, here's one example. Suppose the coffee price drops from 50 baht to 40 baht and you buy more. That's the change in quantity demanded, right? But if it's just gotten really hot into my like the hot season and everyone wants more iced coffee even at the same price, that's the change in the demand. The whole curve shifts right. Okay, be careful about those two changes, okay? The first one is change in quantity demanded. The second one is change in demand. Here is the picture that I want to show you. Let's see. The left side, change in quantity demanded. Okay, we also call it movement. Okay, we have the same curve. You just move along it. So the trigger, what is the trigger? It's the price. Change in price, okay, nothing else. Okay, let me finish the graph here. So we have quantity demanded in the x-axis and the price on the vertical axis, okay? So if price changes, this is gonna be the movement along the curve, okay? Right side here, change in demand. The whole curve shifts. Here, it shifts right, meaning at every price, people now buy more. The trigger is the something indirect changes, okay? Like tastes shifting towards bubble tea. Okay, so let's test it. And here is the quick question. If your income doubled, would you buy more or less or fewer bubble teas? Okay. And here I need one more constraint. Okay, let's see. You are a bubble tea lover. Okay. You are a bubble tea lover, and if your income doubled, would you buy more or fewer bubble tea? So obviously, you're gonna buy more, right? Because here your income doubled, and here is an indirect factor, right? And you're gonna buy more. So the demand curve, this let's say this is D1, and then we have D2. It shifts from D1 to D2. if you said more, okay, like what I showed you before, if you said more, so bubble tea is a normal good for you, and that's a right word shift in demand. But if you say fewer, for you, it would be an inferior good, and the curve would shift left. Either way, notice price didn't move at all. That's the shift, okay? We're going to talk about the difference of normal good and inferior good later, but here just a little introduction. Okay, so if you see, yes, so bubble tea is normal good. For you. But if you said fewer, that means bubble tea is an inferior good for you. We'll talk about those two things later. Here, just let's move on. Okay, here is the summary that I mentioned before. So here, same idea, just adding the vocabulary you need to use in exams, okay? So here, first one, change in quantity demanded, okay? Is the change in purchasing quantity due to the change of direct factor, which is the price of that good? And we assuming that all indirect factors remain unchanged. This is an upward or downward movement in a demand curve due to the change in price. Like the graph here, right? It's an upward or downward movement in a demand curve. And the second one, we have change in demand. Okay, so here is the change in purchasing quantity due to the change of one or many indirect factors. Okay, and here's one or many. When the price of the product remains the same, okay? So here is a shift in demand curve to left or right due to the change in determinants of demand other than price. Okay, if a shift to the right of the original line is called the increase in demand, and if a shift to the left of the original curve, so we call it decrease in demand. Okay, so here are the terminology in economics, okay? Shift to the right, increase in demand. Shift to the left, decrease in demand. Let me draw a graph for you. Okay, so I'm gonna use green here. But here I need to use blue actually. So let me help you how to distinguish increase or decrease. So here we have quantity demanded, here we have price. Suppose the original line is D1. Okay, so the original line is D1. And here, suppose the income increase, right? So suppose income, I'm gonna use I to represent increase. Let's see, the demand curve gonna shift to the right, right? And you buy more, okay? And it's parallel shift. It's parallel shift, okay? Like here, it's parallel shift, but here, the graph here is not that precise. Okay, so we have D2. So here, is the increase in demand from D1 to D2, right? Parallel to the original line, which is D1. And then suppose we need orange. Suppose income decreases, right? So the demand curve gonna shift to the left, right? Okay, so let's draw it. And also it's parallel. Okay, so let's see, we have D3 here. Okay, shift to the left of the original line. Okay, so here it's called decrease in demand from D1 to D3. So in an exam, if you asked, is this an increase or decrease in demand? So please check first, did the curve shift right or left? If shift right, it means increase. If shift left, it means decrease, right? Don't confuse this with quantity demanded, okay? They are different concepts and different vocabularies. That's all about what I want to cover up to now. So we will see each other this Thursday, and I'm gonna continue about the next topic, which is elasticity of demand. Okay, and for this topic, we have many exercise here, right? Exercise. So I want you to discuss with your group, with your friends, okay? That's why I recorded this video for you. So basically, okay, let me go back to the introduction of chapter 2, okay? So right now, for chapter 2, consumer behavior, we have two parts. The first one, law of demand. The second part, theory of elasticity of demand. And right now, we finished this one, right? Okay, so this Thursday, I'm gonna continue with the elasticity of demand. So see you on this Thursday. And actually, this recording is like a little extra homework for you, okay? Because basically we don't have any homework. So this is gonna be your extra homework. Hope you enjoy it, and bye bye.